Hey guys, so today I want to talk to you about process and what the power of having a process is and how it's even more powerful when you build purpose into your actual process. So the presentation today, the power of a purposeful process, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is and how powerful it really is for your organization. So let's get started. So purposeful process, it's the difference between building a business that you work for, like just another job, and building a business that works for you and also that works for the world, because when you build a process, you're really magnifying the power of your organization. So what is a process? Process is repeatable steps for common tasks that you have to do all the time in your business. It's really codifying how it is that you do them by standardizing your conduct. So you might know the way that you do things, obviously, especially if you're a sole proprietor or you're just starting up, you're working on your own. You just do things sometimes as second nature, but there should be a clearly defined process for the way that you do it every single time. That's not to say it doesn't evolve. We'll get into that later. It's your way of doing things. Essentially, this means that everybody, there are plenty of photographers, there are plenty of personal trainers, there are plenty of other people who do what you do, most likely. But you have your unique way of doing things. And if your way of doing things is not that unique, then you should probably work on making it a little bit more unique by bringing purpose into it, which again, we'll talk about in a little bit. But your process embodies that specific way that you do things. So why does your purpose matter? Because it consistently delights your customers. When you build your purpose the right way, what you're doing is you're building in opportunities to consistently delight your customers, and they're not going to be overlooked because you've standardized them into your process. It allows you to basically clone yourself, well, as best as you really could these days, although maybe that technology is coming soon. But your process is a map to conduct that somebody else could follow. So, we all know the struggle, anyone who's ever had an employee, of training that employee to do things the way that you feel things should be done. It's a real big challenge. Having really specific processes allows you to hand that off to somebody, and with a minimum of training, they know exactly the way that they're supposed to do things. They don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you know that they're going to do it the way that you feel it should be done. And it constantly improves your business, and this is what I touched on before. It will evolve. So right now, you start with a checklist of how you do a certain thing at your company, at your organization, but every single time you do it, you're going to see ways to improve it, almost every single time. But anytime you see one of those ways to improve your process, you go back to your process, wherever it is that you're keeping that, whether it's in a checklist in a notebook, or it's a checklist on a website, wherever you're keeping it, in a Word document, anywhere. When you see a way to improve it, you go back and you add that into your process, and then next time you're not going to forget. Next time your process is going to be even better. And now finally, it brings your purpose to life. It actually is the embodiment of what your purpose is, because when you build elements of your purpose into your process, then time and time again, in a repeatable, consistent way, that purpose is being brought to the world through actual things that you're doing. So I want you to build your purposeful process. So what you need to do is just start with simple checklists, right? So think about all of the things that you have to do in order to complete a particular task, right? So think about your operations. If you work pretty much in a project way, that helps too. And you can just think of, what are the steps that I have to do to get things done? Start at a really high altitude. So just the big general things that I need to get done. So for example, for me, when we do a branding project, we have some really high level tasks. First one is to have a kickoff conversation with the client and answer some questions, ask some questions and get answers to those. Then we kick off the design process. We go through some rounds of revisions. We finalize things, and then we hand it off. So that's the high altitude checklist. That's where you should start. But then for each one of those, they all have their own checklist. So for our kickoff conversation, I actually have a list of all the questions that we need to ask, all the information that we need to get, and how that should be conducted in terms of even, what's the telephone conference information that we send them, or if it's a meeting, what do we do to prepare for that meeting? Do we have some nice organic snacks on the table when we're meeting in person? These are all the ways to bring that to life, and you know that it's going to be a good experience for your customer. Include resources and systems in your process, and basically that just means make it as easy as possible for somebody who really has never worked with your company before. If they were to look at this, they would know what to do. So for example, some of the resources that I have in my process is I've actually written out email templates that my staff can use to send out to clients, so that I know it has the right voice, it has the right tone, it's personable, but it covers all the right information, so that they can just copy that email template, copy that text, pop it into an email, swap out some information, add a little personal touch, and that's ready for them to go. Systems refers basically just to what's the software, what are the things that you use. We use Dropbox for file management, so that's referenced in all of our processes. And then finally, build purpose in. And now this is really, this is the big one. This is what this is all about, because as much as this can really free you to have a process, if you're not building purpose into your process, then you may as well just take it off a shelf, and it could be any company's process. But I want you to really think about some ideas about how you can build purpose into your process. So for example, really good example, if you're a bakery, you might have a process. Obviously you have a process for baking bread. It's a recipe, right? But let's say at the end of the day, you build a process for your whole day. In the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, you start baking the bread, and then there's different things throughout the day. And at the end of the day, maybe you donate that bread. Where do you donate it? Where does it go, right? That's part of your purpose. Maybe that as a bakery owner, you donate your excess bread to a homeless shelter or wherever it goes. That's building purpose into your process, right? Maybe you have a martial arts gym or something, and you teach kids, and when those kids come in, you have them talk about something, you have them recite something, a mantra or a self-affirmation, and you tell them how amazing and awesome they are to get them really feeling confident and pumped up before you start that class. That could be part of your purpose, right? So build that purpose into your process so that it never slips through the cracks in the day-to-day business, right? So I really love it if you share some of your ideas on process, some of the ways that you've built purpose into your process. Share those in the comments, and let me know what you think. Thanks.